चक्षुरुन्मिलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतः पदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथामितं तं सुजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। पञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामो राम रामो हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. I'd like to welcome all of you all to our Bhagavad Gita classes once again. Very, very grateful for all of you for enthusiastically participating in these classes and wanting to learn Gita. Today we're going to be continuing the first chapter of the Gita, which is entitled as Observing the Armies on the Battlefield. And today's session is actually the title of this particular chapter. This is exactly what's going to happen now. The observation of the armies on the battlefield is going to happen. And we're going to learn some really amazing things about our own journey of life and our own understanding of spirituality through this particular session. So we saw in this chapter, the first section, the first 13 verses, talk about the duplicity of Dhritarashtra and the diplomacy of Duryodhana. And then we saw how Krishna is introduced in the Gita for the first time as a chariot driver, as a servant of his devotees. And then the last time we saw the signs of the victory of Arjun. Today, we're going to get into the last section of this chapter. The last section of this chapter is going to be confusion. The whole chapter has the acronym DISC. And through the whole chapter, we're going to learn all these things. So today we're going to be talking about confusion, which is what is there in a lot of our lives, isn't it? There's a lot of confusion in our lives. And I'll just chant a particular verse that introduces this concept, and then we'll begin a discussion. This verse is verse number 21-22 of the first chapter of the Gita. It says, Arjuna Uvacha, Senayor Ubayor Madhye, Ratam Stapya Me Achyuta, Yavadeta Niriksheham, Yodu Kaman Avasthitam, Kairmaya Saha Yodavyam, Asmin Rana Samudyame. So here, Arjun is asking Krishna a question. He's actually making a request to Krishna. He's telling, Senayor Ubayor Madhye. Senayor Ubayor Madhye means what? Madhye means middle. Senayor Ubayor Madhye means take me in between the two armies. Ratham Stapya Me Achyuta. He says, station my chariot in between the two armies. And why does he want that? Why does Arjun want Krishna to take his chariot in between the two armies? Because he says, Yavad Eta Niriksheham. Niriksheham means I want to inspect. Yavad means who have come there on the battlefield. I want to inspect both the armies. And he's saying, Yodu Kaman Avasthitam. I want to find out who has come here with a desire to fight. So that's what Arjuna has asked Krishna to do. And Arjun, when he asks this, Krishna now takes the chariot and goes in between. So Sanjaya says, Evam ukto rishikesho gudakeshena bharata senayor ubhayor madhye stapyetva rathottamam. I'm stopping here. First, we'll discuss this and then we'll go ahead. Here, Krishna is being addressed by Arjun with a word. And the word that he is using to address Krishna is Achyuta. The word Achyuta means to fall. And the word Achyuta means to never fall. Chuta means to fall, and Achyuta means the one who never falls. Why is Krishna called Achyuta? And why is Arjun specifically using this name of Krishna to call Krishna? He could have used any other name. What is the logic behind Krishna, Arjun using this particular name of Krishna? It's a very important question. As I said, the word Chuta means fall. All of us fall, isn't it? You won't believe what just happened 5 minutes before I got on this call. I was talking to my mother, and my mother is, in her 60s, but she's very scared of one thing. You know what she's scared of? She's scared of falling. Somehow she walks and somehow she ends up slipping and falling somewhere or other, So she was planning to come on a long trip with me. I'm taking them, on a pilgrimage to Badrinath and Kedarnath and all these holy places. And my mother, the only thing she's talking to me is, I don't want to fall. I don't want to fall. It's so embarrassing. I don't want to fall. I'm telling her, why are you talking about falling so much? But that's in her mind. She's always thinking about, I don't want to fall. It's so embarrassing. Now, one is physically falling, right? We'll all get there. We'll all get to a point where we will be scared of physically falling, because that's the reality of life as you get older, right? But there are other types of falling which is more relevant to us today. Not falling to temptations. Isn't that also falling, right? So a lot of people fall to temptations, and that is also a type of fall. Falling to wrongdoings. A lot of people fall into bad habits, into bad, situations of life, and they get, into so many wrong habits. Isn't that falling? And falling to the misgivings of the heart. Our heart has so many misgivings: lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, illusion, so many of the misgivings of the heart, and we do fall to them, right? So we fall in so many ways. We fall to temptations, we fall to wrongdoings, we fall to misgivings, we fall in our character and integrity, we fall in our promises. So we all fall. So who are we? We are all Chuta. We are all fallible people. We are all potentially, today or tomorrow, we will all fall. Some people are only scared of physical falling. That's nothing. The actual falling is falling to temptations. The actual falling is falling to vices. The actual falling is when you give up your character and integrity. That is Chuta. Interestingly, Krishna is called Achyuta. Means he is the one who never falls. Many years back, one of our devotees, he had a very big complicated issue going on in his life. And the problem was his boss, as is the case in many people's lives. So this boss of this particular devotee, he was forcing him to take a particular bribe and get some work done, So he was being forced, literally forced by his boss to do it. And this person didn't want to do it. This devotee was really not wanting to do that. But if he didn't do it, then naturally he would have to face a repercussion. And what is the repercussion he would have to face? The repercussion he would have to face is probably he would lose his job, probably he would lose his position and privileges and all that stuff. So it was a situation where he didn't know what to do. It was almost like a catch-22 situation. So with this kind of a complication, he came to one of our leaders, and he came to our leader, whose name is Radhanath Swami, and he told our leader what his problem was. How do I deal with this? Maharaj gave him a very simple solution. He told him, please take shelter of Krishna. Surely Krishna will help you. So this person, this devotee was feeling, he didn't know what to do. They didn't have a solution as such. He just went down from meeting Radhanath Swami. He went to the gift shop, and in the gift shop he found a greeting card. It was a greeting card which had a painting of Krishna dancing on Kaliya's head. It was obviously you must have all seen that painting, right? Of Krishna dancing on Kaliya's head. It was a greeting card of that painting. So this man bought that greeting card, and he wrote a small message for his boss. It was Diwali time, so he was kind of giving him the greeting card. So he gave him the greeting card. In a matter of 1 week, this boss got transferred, and he didn't have to actually do that, what his boss was pushing him to do. And this boss got transferred to Nagpur. And this devotee came to Maharaj and he told him this story, and he said, thank you very much for the suggestion. I prayed intensely to Krishna, and my boss got transferred to Nagpur. And he said, I gave my boss this greeting card of Krishna dancing on Kaliya's head. Maharaj said, that is so significant. And he said that because you prayed to Krishna and took shelter of him, and because Krishna is Achyuta, and because Krishna was dancing on Kaliya's head, what happened? He got transferred of all places to Nagpur. Isn't it very significant? Nagpur is the place of snakes. And that's how this devotee really got saved from falling into some real serious temptations, basically. Now, Arjun is calling Krishna as Achyuta. Why is Arjun calling Krishna as Achyuta? Because Krishna never fails. He is infallible. Infallible means he never falls himself, and he also helps his devotee from falling. And that's why Krishna is called infallible. Krishna is infallible in so many ways. He's infallible in his actions. Whenever Krishna is infallible, first in his affection. When a devotee of Krishna takes shelter of Krishna, Krishna will do anything for him. In the Mahabharata war, we know of a particular story. I'm sure you all have heard of this. I mentioned the story also. Let me quickly tell you all the story again. There was a particular day in which Bhishma had taken a vow that he would kill all the 5 Pandavas the next day morning. And he selected 5 arrows with which he would kill the 5 Pandavas. And when Krishna heard, or he came to know that, Bhishma is planning to kill all the 5 Pandavas, and those 5 arrows, Duryodhana took them and put them under his pillow and went to sleep. Krishna was really in anxiety and he couldn't sleep. Suddenly he got an idea. He sent Arjun to meet Duryodhana. And he told Arjun, go to Duryodhana and ask him for those 5 arrows. So Arjun said, why will Duryodhana give me those 5 arrows? Krishna said, do you remember long back you had saved Duryodhana's life? Many years back when they were in the forest, actually Arjun saved Duryodhana's life from the Gandharvas. The Gandharvas had attacked Duryodhana and Arjun actually saved him. At that point, Duryodhana made a promise to Arjun that if you want anything, just ask me for it. I'll give it to you. No questions asked. So Arjun reached that night to Duryodhana's camp in the middle of the night. Imagine, So Duryodhana was shocked to see Arjun. He asked him, what do you want? Arjun said, do you remember you made a promise to me long back? Duryodhana said, just ask anything. You want your kingdom back, I'll give it to you. Arjun said, no, I don't want my kingdom back. I only want those 5 arrows back. Now, Duryodhana was shocked to know that Arjun knew about it. He anyway gave those 5 arrows. But the next day morning, when Bhishma saw that those 5 arrows are missing, and he knew that Krishna was the one who did this, Bhishma took a vow that just like Krishna has made me break my promise, I will make him break his promise. What is the promise that Krishna had made? That he will never lift a weapon in the war. And the next day, Bhishma fought so furiously that literally it seemed Arjuna would be dead that day. And Krishna, at some point, when he saw that Arjuna is not able to handle himself and he's really getting defeated so badly, Krishna jumped off the chariot and ran to Bhishma. Somehow he picked up a chariot wheel, it made it a Sudarshan Chakra, and rushed to Bhishma to kill him. Now imagine, this is Krishna. Because he loves his devotees, he's ready to break his own promise for protection of his devotees. So Bhishma saw Krishna coming running like that. He dropped his weapons and he held out his hand. He said, my dear Lord, please kill me. I am happy to die in your hands. Of course, Arjun stopped him. But the point was here, Krishna was reciprocating not only with Arjun's love, but also with Bhishma's love. Because Bhishma challenged him in Virya Ras. And Bhishma also was a great devotee of the Lord. And Krishna reciprocated in that way. Krishna is called Achyuta because he is infallible in his carrying out orders. In Vrindavan, when Krishna was a little child, his father, Nanda Maharaj, would tell Krishna, go and get my shoes. And Krishna was so tiny at that point, he could hardly lift the shoes of Nanda Maharaj. And Krishna would run and carry the shoes on his head and come running to Nanda Maharaj, to his father. Now imagine what extent Krishna is ready to go to serve his devotees and carry out their orders. Krishna is Achyuta because he is infallible in his position, regardless of what he does. If somebody steals, he's not going to get some kind of a award for stealing, is he? So many people are out there to commit all kinds of frauds, online frauds and offline frauds and all kinds of cheating happening. There are some places which are specialized in cheating others. Whole bunch of people waiting to cheat only. Now, when somebody cheats another person, when somebody loots another person, do you think that person gets some reward or some kind of a name and fame saying, "Wow, big cheater"? No. The society criticizes him. The society hates him, and he's considered a criminal. But when Krishna does the same thing, he's worshipped for it. Krishna is known as Makhan Chor, stealing butter in people's houses. And Krishna is also known as Rana Chor. That means he ran away from a battlefield. So when a Kshatriya runs away from a battlefield, he's considered a coward. And people literally make fun of such a person, right? But when Krishna runs away from a battlefield, he's glorified. There's a temple, of Krishna, Ranchod Rai. So whatever Krishna does, he is infallible. He is infallible in his position, regardless of what he does. That's the greatness of Krishna. Krishna is infallible in position, regardless of what form he takes. Krishna has taken so many forms, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, etc., etc. I mean, whoever wants to be a pig? If somebody calls you a pig, that's like the biggest bad word. People feel really insulted when they are called pig and whatever, And Krishna actually becomes a pig. He becomes Varaha. And Varaha incarnation of Krishna is considered to be one of the most powerful incarnations of the Lord. In fact, when Varaha Dev, why did Krishna took that particular form of Varaha? Because the earth was in the Garbhodaka Sagar. It was in a very, it's like a dirty place, literally, So now, to enter a dirty place, which form is best suited? Naturally, pig's form is like the most best suited form to enter into some, gutter and dirty place, right? That is why Krishna took that Varaha Rupa. And when he took that form and brought the earth out, and after he placed the earth in its orbit, he shook his body. If a pig shakes its body, who wants to be standing there? And all those droplets of the pig's body splash all over. I mean, do you think anybody would enjoy that, that kind of a shower? Obviously not. People would hate that. But when Krishna shook his body, Varaha Roop shook his body, and all those droplets fell all over, the great sages, when they experienced the touch of those droplets from the body of Varahadev, each one of them experienced ecstatic symptoms on the body. They didn't consider that water to be dirty. They actually felt purified from the water that comes out from Varahadev's body. And that's what Achyuta means. He's infallible in position, regardless of what form he takes. Achyuta also means that Krishna is infallible in position, regardless of time. You'll find that from time immemorial, Krishna has been worshipped. Krishna has been glorified, appreciated, served, and there's no point in time when, and even in his own personal life, there's no time when Krishna let down anybody, or he himself was not glorified, worshipped, and perfect. So Krishna is known as Achyuta, and because he is infallible, he is highly dependable. So Arjun is telling Krishna, "Oh Achyuta, please take me to the middle of the battlefield. Senayor Ubayor Madhye." So Arjun, in this particular instance where he asks Krishna to take him in the middle of the battlefield, he is right now at the peak of his career. He is at the peak of his career as a Kshatriya. If you actually notice, if you look at the trajectory of Arjun's life, he has been tremendously growing throughout the Vanaparva, throughout the forest exile time, throughout his education. He has been upgrading in his knowledge, growing to a great extent. This particular point in Arjun's life, where he is telling Krishna, "Please take me to the center," that is a time where Arjun is actually at the peak of his career. And you know what happens? This particular episode of Arjun is considered to be the episode where Arjun actually experiences stress symptoms and confusions. It's very interesting. When you're at the peak of your career, why would you be confused? When you are at the peak of your career, when everything is going perfectly fine in your life, why would you be confused? And if you are confused at the peak of your career, that means there is something seriously wrong in you. There is something seriously wrong in your prioritization, in the way you look at things. Here, Arjun is called as Gudakesha. The word that is used to describe Arjun, he is known as Gudakesha. What is the meaning of Gudakesha? So if you look at this, Sanjay is saying, "Evam ukto rishikesho Gudakeshena bharata senayor ubayor madhye stapyetva ratottamam." Why is Arjun called Gudakesha by Sanjay over here? What is the meaning of Gudakesh? Guda, Gudaka, it means sleep. Gudakesha means the one who has conquered sleep. So Arjun is the one who has conquered sleep. All of us, we are conquered by sleep, isn't it? The favorite pastime of everyone living in the 21st century is sleeping. And actually, it's good if people are sleeping, because at least they end up not doing bad. So in one sense, it's good people sleep more, because that much time at least they are not doing bad things, basically. So the word Gudakesha means one who has conquered sleep. Kumbhakarna is known as Gudadas. Gudadas means the one who is conquered by sleep. The body is like a vehicle. It has to be maintained. Don't go to extreme to take care of the body. You know, there are some people who are so careful of the body, they don't want to take even a little bit of trouble. They take extreme precautions. You tell them sleep more, they will sleep 10 hours straight away. You know, if you tell people eat nicely, they'll eat much more than needed. So we end up taking more care of the body than needed, essentially. You know. So conquering sleep means what? Conquering sleep essentially means balance. Gudakesha means sleep the right amount. Mode of goodness is 6 to 7 hours of sleep. If you actually calculate how much time we sleep in the day and in the night, we will actually be shocked that we sleep much beyond what is needed for the body. 6-7 hours is good for the body. It's balanced amount of sleep. And when we sleep, sleep is actually a service to the Lord, service to Krishna. How is it a service to Krishna? Simply because when you sleep, your body gets rest. And when you get up in the morning, the next day, your body is fresh to do service. That is how the period of sleep is actually also service to the Lord, because you're preparing the body to serve the Lord the next day. And therefore, that night sleep is actually seva, if you're preparing it in that consciousness. If you think of Krishna all day and then sleep at night, you'll dream of Krishna also. Arjun, one time, had a very interesting situation of life. Narad Muni once visited Dwarka and he met Krishna and Arjun. And when he came to know that Krishna and Arjun was sleeping, Narad Muni walked into the bedroom and he saw Krishna and Arjun were sleeping together. And Arjun's leg was on Krishna's chest. Now imagine, I mean, in sleep, sometimes people go ulta bulta, right? They turn around and all. So Arjun's leg was on Krishna's chest. Narad Muni got the shock of his life when he saw that. He said, how can a devotee put his leg on the chest of the Lord? And at that point, Krishna told Narad Muni, see, first of all, you shouldn't have come there. It's our private connection. But anyway, since you have come, you're doubting Arjun, let me suggest to you something. Go and when Arjun is sleeping, go and touch him anywhere. You will get your answer. So Narad Muni goes and touches Arjun when Arjun is sleeping. Just touch it, puts your hand on the body of Arjun. And in all our bodies, if you touch us at particular places, you get this pulse, right? The heartbeat. You can measure, you can actually feel the pulse. In Arjun's body, when Narad Muni touched it, he could hear Krishna's name, Krishna, 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 being chanted. And that was how absorbed Arjun was in Krishna. Arjun, in every breath of Arjun, Krishna's name would come out. So this idea of sleeping is very powerfully connected with an idea of balance. Buddha, or sleep, in one way, it represents ignorance. And Gudakesha means the one who has conquered ignorance. And here, interestingly, Arjuna is supposed to be Gudakesha. Though he is supposed to be Gudakesha, Arjun is unfortunately going to be conquered by ignorance. And that's why Sanjaya is making this ironical statement. Gudakesha is going to be confused. When you keep God in the center of your life, every activity in your life attains a balance. So Arjun kept Krishna in the center of his life. And therefore, even his sleep became something that was spiritual, something that was well balanced, not off the mark, not off control. Krishna now does something amazing. And this is one of the very special verses of the Gita. Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra, Bhishma Durona Pramukatha Sarvesham cha Mahishitam Uvacha Partha Pashyaitan Samavetan Kurun Iti. It is said, facing Bhishma and Drona. Krishna told Arjun, just see, O Partha, here are the members of the Kuru clan assembled together. This word, Bhishma Drona Pramukatha, is a very important statement in the Bhagavad Gita. What does Bhishma Drona Pramukatha mean in our lives? Let us try to understand this and let us try to analyze this, because this is a $1 million question. This is so very important. Let me explain what this Bhishma Drona Pramukatha is actually. What does Arjun tell Krishna? Arjun tells Krishna, my dear Krishna, please take my chariot in the middle of the two armies. Isn't it? That's all he tells him. And what does Krishna do? Krishna takes the chariot and parks it in the middle of the two armies. But where does he park it? He parks it in front of Bhishma and Drona. Bhishma Drona Pramukatha. Krishna could have parked the chariot in front of Duryodhana also. He could have parked the chariot in front of Dushashan also. He could have parked the chariot in front of, some other warriors also. Why does Krishna purposely park the vehicle in front of Bhishma Drona? There is a reason. And that shows how intelligent Krishna is. All of us, we prefer a God who is foolish, but we prefer a God who is powerful. Why? Because we prefer to use our intelligence and God's power to get our work done. So usually most people prefer a foolish God. People don't want a clever God. People don't want a smart God. Because if there is a smart God, if God is smart, then they are in trouble. Their plans don't work exactly the way they want it, right? But Krishna is so smart. Krishna knows exactly what you need to see. A lot of us, we're like Arjun. And all of us, we probably at some point in our lives, we are at the peak of our careers. We are at the peak of our success. We are at the peak of our fame. We are at the peak of our wealth. We are at the peak of our health. We are at the peak of age also probably, whatever it is, we are at the peak of something at some point of time or the other. The problem with most of us is that when we are successful, we do not want to deal with our weaknesses. We do not want to deal with our fears. We do not want to deal with those things that are confusing us, bewildering us, those things that are challenging us. Why? Sometimes it's best not to see it. Why? Because we're scared to see it. For Arjun, these two people, Bhishma, Drona, Pramukatha, these two represent Arjun's greatest weaknesses. Krishna parks the chariot in front of Arjun, in front of Bhishma and Drona, and he says, Pashyatan. Pashyatan means see. Pramukatha. So he's saying, Krishna, if you notice in the whole Gita, so far, we are almost towards the last part of the first chapter of the Gita. Krishna has not spoken a single word till now. Bhagavad Gita is Krishna's Gita, right? Song of God. But full chapter is almost over. Krishna has not spoken one word. This is the first word Krishna is speaking. Pashyatan. That's the word Krishna speaks. See. Pashyatan means perceive, see. He's telling him, see who is in front of you. Why does Krishna say Pashyatan to Arjun? He is telling him, he's not just telling him, see what is in front of you, who's in front of you. He's saying, deal with your weakness. He's telling Arjun, confront your fears. The word Pramukatha, what does it mean? Pramukha means main. Pramukha also means right in front. Bhishma Drona Pramukatha. Krishna keeps Arjun's chariot right in front of Bhishma and Drona, and he tells him, before you fight the war externally, win the war internally. A lot of us, we don't do this. We don't confront our fears first. We jump in to the battle of life. We start fighting. And as we start fighting, somewhere in between, we start getting scared. Krishna doesn't want us to do that. That's why Krishna is putting Arjun's chariot right in the front. He said, before you fight the battle of your life, win this. Because most wars are not won outside. Most wars are won inside. When warriors go to fight, almost every time when warriors go to fight, the commander gives them a lecture, an inspirational lecture. The commander always brings all his soldiers together and talks to them. Why does he talk to them? Because he knows very well the war is not won physically. The war is first won in the mind. A lot of us, we are all having challenges. We all are having difficulties. We are all having attachments that we don't want to face. We don't want to deal with them. We don't want to deal with those attachments. Why? Because they are our pain points. We don't like to face them. If somebody comes and shows it to you, we run away because we don't like facing those pain points of our life. But Krishna is telling Arjun, first face it. That is why only if you can fight our greatest attachments, you can understand the Gita. If you don't confront your attachments, they don't trouble you. It's very interesting. If somebody is a drug addict and they don't decide that I want to give up my addiction, drugs won't trouble them at all. The day they decide we want to give up the addiction, that is when you will see how powerful the drug is, how much it is controlling your life. If somebody is smoking continuously and he continues smoking, no problem. I mean, of course, as long as you're alive, no problem. But the point is, the day you decide I want to stop it, that is when you realize how powerful that habit is and how weak you are. So if we don't confront our attachments, they don't trouble us at all. But when we take spiritual life seriously, they confront us. Attachments of the heart can't be downloaded like files. When we have strong attachments in the heart, you can't say download it, keep it aside. No, you have to deal with it. You have to face it. Spiritual life is about detachment in the right spirit. Gita helps us deal with our internal fights against our attachments. The idea is don't keep your legs on both boats. A lot of people, when they come to the path of spirituality, they think that this boat is very nice. I love it. But my boat also is very nice. I love that also, So there's a material boat in which we are already there. And then we keep one leg on the spiritual boat. Once in a week, nice to hear Gita class, It's fun to hear some spiritual talks, So they keep one leg here, then one leg here. And they think it's a very nice thing, Here also I'm happy, here also I'm happy. But they don't realize the boats are going in two different directions. At some point, you have to take a call. Whether you want to be on this boat or you want to be in this boat. Because if you hang around in between, you will fall inside, for sure. So, Krishna is not asking us to give up your family. But Krishna is telling, in the name of your family, don't give up Krishna. Krishna is not telling to give up your responsibilities and your family and your, and the reality in which you are. That's not what Krishna is trying to tell. But at the same time, Krishna is telling, In the name of your family, don't give up your spiritual practices. In the name of your responsibilities, don't give up your spiritual practices. That's why spiritual life is a balance. We need to find a path that is actually a very balanced approach towards spirituality. It's not that we are overly detached and give up everything suddenly. That doesn't work. That's artificial. But at the same time, don't take your personal, family life and your whole situation so seriously that you have no time at all for practicing spiritual life. Every single person should find some time every day to practice and develop his connection with higher aspects of life. So the idea is make your family Krishna conscious. Bring spirituality in your family. Bring Krishna into your family. And it's not that we defy our family traditions, but we understand them in the context of Gita. So here, Bhishma and Drona represent two things. Bhishma represents family traditions. All of us, there are so many traditions we practice based on what our family has told us. Our family has told us do this, our family has told us do that. So there are certain rituals that we end up doing just because we have been introduced to those rituals by our forefathers, by our ancestors, by so many people. When Arjun is facing Bhishma, he actually begins to start thinking too much. You know why? What does Bhishma represent for Arjun? Bhishma represents the idea of being attached to family rituals. Let me try to explain you this in a very practical and a very relevant manner. And I want you all to focus on this discussion very nicely because this is a very important discussion of the Gita. All of us, we all are connected to certain cultures. We're connected to some rituals. We're connected to some traditions in our lives. But how many of us have actually tried to understand those traditions? How many of us have actually tried to access those traditions from the point of view of knowledge? Most people don't even understand why they're doing what they're doing. Most people don't even understand that. They just do the ritual because they're told, ye karo bas. So a lot of us spend our entire lives doing things ritualistically just because we have been told to do it. Nobody questions why. Nobody questions why should I do it? And unfortunately, even if people question, they don't get the answers. I know so many youngsters who keep questioning everything, but they don't get logical answers. At the same time, there are so many people who don't question at all. They just do it because they're told to do. Like I always tell the story of this young girl who was getting married, and the marriage ceremony was going on, and suddenly she said, wait, there's something very important missing. And she said, my mother, when she was getting married, she told me that there's a very important ritual that has to be done in the marriage ceremony. And what is that ritual? She said, my mother told me that one of our very important rituals is that in the marriage arena where the marriage is happening, there should be a basket got and a cat put inside the basket. And only when you put a cat inside the basket, cover it up, then the marriage ritual is complete. Nobody asked why. They just went and ran around, found a cat and put a basket on it and covered it up. The marriage happened. Next generation continued it trend, where somebody remembered, this is a very important ritual. Continued. And then somewhere down the line, they went to find out why this ritual, what is the importance of the ritual? Then they found out that the ritual is because to actually convey, rather what had happened was many marriages back, one cat was roaming around there. It was doing all masti, So this lady, just to, from a practical point of view, she put a basket on the cat to cover it and just stop it from moving around, disturbing everything. Somebody caught that as a very important ritual, and they passed it down generation after generation. People are covering cat with a basket, Unfortunately, a lot of us, we are stuck with such meaningless rituals that nobody has gone to verify what it is, what is the origin of it, what is the logic behind it. I'm not saying all the rituals are this bad, but a lot of the rituals that we do without understanding the meaning, it actually makes no sense. And that is why we need guidance. We need guidance of people who can help us understand the logic behind every ritual. There is a whole session I do, which is called as From Ritual to Spiritual, which actually tells us, the idea of that session is basically to help us understand that it's not that rituals are not important. Rituals are important. But more important than the ritual is the essence for which you do the ritual. Why am I doing what am I doing? If I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm just doing it mechanically. And mechanically doing it won't give us the result that understanding and doing it gives. Right? So rituals are like an envelope. And if you want to send a letter to someone, you use an envelope, right? Of course, nowadays you say, what are you talking about? Nobody uses letters nowadays, But I'm just assuming that we will send a traditional letter to someone. So you use an envelope, write the name, the address, and phone number, and all that. Put a stamp on it, and seal it nicely. Now imagine you do all that nicely, but you just forget to put the letter inside. What's the point? What's the point in sending an empty envelope with all the address and everything perfect and complete? If the letter is missing in it, that letter is the most important part of the envelope. So if you're sending something to someone, if that letter is missing, then what are you sending? Empty envelope. It's like so disappointing, isn't it? A lot of people send empty envelopes. We do some agarbatti, we do some diya, we do some random rituals mechanically without understanding what we're doing. It's like sending an empty envelope to God. But that letter is the love, is the essence of the ritual. Why we are doing the ritual? To convey our love to God. And that letter is most important. Of course, you can't send the letter without a ritual, without an envelope, isn't it? So imagine you go and post the letter without putting an envelope. How will it reach destination? There's no address, there is no stamp. Naturally, it won't reach the destination. So letter is important, cover is important. But both without each other don't make sense. The envelope doesn't make sense without the letter, and the letter doesn't make sense without envelope. Similarly, the ritual is important, but more important is to understand the reason behind doing the ritual. So Arjun, when he's facing Bhishma, he is facing his family. All of us, we are all like Arjun at the crossroad of our life, where we are standing in front of our greatest attachments. So when somebody comes to the path of Krishna consciousness, by the path of spirituality, one of the biggest hurdles and obstacles become people in the family itself. When somebody starts taking spiritual life seriously, the family members say, "Arey, kya ho gaya? What happened suddenly?" They actually start making fun of you. They start acting so sarcastic. I know so many people who go through so much difficulty because family members just don't allow them to take it seriously. Friends don't allow them to take it seriously. Suddenly you tell you are I remember when I was a 16-year-old boy, when I started attending Gita classes, my friends used to make fun of me. They used to laugh at me saying that, "What are you doing? They're 16, 17 years old." Of course, I used to have fun. I used to play and all that, but I still went to classes. I still attended, satsang. I love both, but people don't leave you like that, isn't it? They don't leave it to practice spiritual life so easily, isn't it? Somebody or the other speaks some sarcastic remarks, passes some sarcastic comments, tries to dissuade you from practicing your spiritual journey seriously. And of course, they are a very important part of our life, but it doesn't mean that we allow them to trample upon our desire to understand Gita well, right? So when you are facing Bhishma in your life, I'm sure all of you all have one Bhishma in your life who is standing there right in front of you. And the Bhishmas might be asking you, what are you doing? What are you wasting your time doing all this? But there are more important things to do in life. That's what Bhishma indicates in our own lives. We all have to face Bhishmas, but we face Bhishmas with dignity. We face Bhishmas with the courage that Krishna gives us. We face Bhishmas with understanding and knowledge. So Arjun was attached to Bhishma, his grandfather. When Arjun saw Bhishma, his grandfather standing in front of him, Arjun was scared. Arjun couldn't handle it. Arjun actually started crying. He was shocked and bewildered and confused. He was thinking, how can I kill my grandfather? How can I do this? I love him so much. Spirituality is not about not loving your family. Spirituality is not about not loving your friends and relatives. Spirituality is about loving them in the right spirit, loving them in the right mood, in the right consciousness. Spirituality is about understanding what love is. Love doesn't necessarily mean that people in a family have to do exactly the same thing, all of them. That's not what love is. Love can be in variety also. Love is about respecting what you feel inspired to do. So Bhishma represents all those family attachments that prevent you from doing what you want to do. One family member loves rock music. Does it mean that all family members should love rock music? Is that necessary? One family member loves vodka. Does it mean that all family members have to love vodka? Is that love? No, that's not what understanding of love is. Love is in respecting each other's priorities in the way they feel inspired. And therefore, the idea here is Bhishma represents all those things that are in the gamut of family, friends, relatives. And on one side is Krishna. One side is the message of the Gita. On the other side is your rituals, is your attachments, is your difficulties. The idea is, how do you bridge the gap? That's what Bhagavad Gita is all about. Bhagavad Gita is a book that is going to teach you the art of balancing. That is going to teach you how this is important, but this also is important. How do you balance the two? How do you balance the two and not succumb to one? The second is even more interesting. What does Drona represent? Drona represents attachments to teachers. All of us have many teachers in our life, isn't it? Teachers are those who help us form our belief systems. Teachers are those who help us understand everything about God, everything about life, everything about everything. For everything you need teachers, isn't it? Nowadays, how to use Instagram, you need a teacher for that. Most of course, youngsters, they know quite well. But the older generation, you can't make out head or tail of this. Somebody is needed to teach. Teachers are needed for every aspect of our life. Every single aspect of our life, we need teachers. To learn how to chant the holy names, we need a teacher. To understand Gita, we need a teacher. To understand about life's priorities, we need a teacher. Drona represents attachment to teachers. Attachment to teachers essentially means attachment to belief systems. All of us are attached to different belief systems. We all grow up with some belief systems. We have learned from our childhood. We have learned from many, many teachers. There are certain belief systems that we grow up with. And then when we start hearing and studying Gita, we understand that many of the belief systems that we grew up with are wrong. Many of the belief systems that we grew up with are actually wrong. And unfortunately, many times, we are so attached to those belief systems because we are attached to those teachers. And we're so attached to those belief systems that we're not able to let go. Drona represents those attachments to belief systems. Let me explain my little journey of, in the last few years, and how I have been dealing with people who are introducing wrong belief systems in society. And this is such an important part of our conversation of understanding Gita. There are so many authors, there are so many gurus, there are so many teachers who are supposed to be guides, but they're actually misguides. They're supposed to be, showing and teaching people the right way of life, but unfortunately, they're guiding people into the wrong way of life. They're supposed to be leaders who are supposed to be guiding people towards the right understanding of the scriptures. But unfortunately, because they have their own agendas, they end up misguiding the students. Drona represents such teachers. And interestingly, the understanding is very, very interesting. Why did Drona come to teach the Pandavas and Kauravas? Do you think Drona just loved them and wanted to teach them the knowledge of various things? No, Drona had an agenda. What was his agenda? His agenda was that he wanted to kill his friend Drupada. He wanted to attack his friend and make his friend Drupada lose because Drupada insulted him. So Drona gave full education to the Pandavas with one agenda. And what was that agenda? To win against Drupad. Imagine if a teacher has an agenda hidden like this, how dangerous the teacher can be, how much the teacher can interpret, misinterpret, and make us believe things that are not true at all. Drona represents attachment to such teachers. So when Krishna brings Arjuna in front of Bhishma and Drona, he's telling, Chalo, first deal with this before you go ahead in the battle of your life. All of us will have to deal with this in our own journeys of spirituality. Deal with attachment to family traditions, deal with attachment to belief systems, deal with the attachment to Bhishmas, and deal with the attachment to Dronas. In my little journey of spirituality, especially in the world of writing that I've been so much a part of, I've seen that there are so many authors nowadays that are writing anything to misguide people and give them all wrong understandings of life. I'm very, very sorry to say that I can name so many of them who may be really famous and very, very prominent authors. But unfortunately, when it comes to the scriptures, they don't have the authority and they shouldn't be commenting on it because they don't have a practice based on it. When we began the Bhagavad Gita, if you remember, we had the introductory class. And in the introductory class, we spoke about how in spirituality, in understanding Gita and the Bhagavatam, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, what is more important is not caliber. What is more important is character. What is more important is not intelligence. What is more important is purity. So a lot of these people who are, writing books and giving lectures, just misguiding people and misinterpreting things like anything. Of course, they have their own agenda. I'll give you one or two examples. And I'm sure you will all find hundreds of such examples on your own, I can go on to name people also. So let me name one of them. I'm sure all of you all have heard of Devdutt Patnaik, right? This guy has written so many books based on scriptures, but so many of it is just absolute wrong interpretations, not based on tradition, not based on any authentic research. It's just mental speculation. And I'm going to give you one example just to help you understand this. And I can give you hundreds of examples if you like. I'll give you two examples. Let me give you two very interesting examples. This person, he has written a book. He wrote one article actually. And in this article, he writes about parenting. And he writes about Krishna's parenting, through three examples. He talks about one example where he says Krishna had a son named Samba. Samba looked exactly like Krishna in looks, facial features exactly resembled Krishna. This guy goes on to write that Krishna, when Samba looked exactly like Krishna, one of Krishna's queens, Krishna has 16,000 queens, one of Krishna's queens thought he was Krishna and approached him. And he's writing that Samba took advantage of the fact that she thought he's Krishna and he enjoyed with her. I have no idea where he found this story from. It is not in any of the authentic scriptures at all. It's a made up story. So a lot of such stories are just cooked up, fabricated stories. And this person is actually quoting this story. And he quotes two other stories. I'm not even going to get into the other two stories. But he writes three stories like this of three different sons of Krishna. And all three stories are taken completely out of context. And you know what his conclusion is? His conclusion is very interesting. He says Krishna's children behaved like this because Krishna was very busy in Hastinapur and taking care of other people's problems. He never gave them time. And because he didn't give them time, they became spoiled like this. And this is his conclusion on parenting. Give time to your children. Don't be like Krishna. Come on. Where is this coming from? And I can go on and on telling you so many such things. I'll tell you one more. Recently, he wrote a book on marriage. Very interesting. And this entire book is based on one incident that he begins with from the Ramayana. He says when Lord Ram was in the Dandakaranya forest, and mind you, this particular story that I'm going to tell you all about Lord Ram is considered to be one of the highest stories of devotion, highest levels of devotion, basically. They're like a very high level understanding of bhakti. So when Lord Ram was in the Dandakaranya forest, he was traveling, he met the sages of Dandakaranya. The sages of Dandakaranya were such amazing devotees. They had so much love, they had so much devotion to Lord Ram, they had so much of dedication to Lord Ram. When they saw Lord Ram, their hearts melted. They just loved him. And they have been meditating on the Paramatma within the heart. Now imagine if the object of your meditation walks in front of you, how much you will have connection, right? So their love for Ram manifested so powerfully in the form of emotions and sentiments. And in that, love, in that sentiment, the sages of Dandakaranya tell Lord Ram, "Oh Lord, we want to marry you." Of course, this is a very devotional mood. It's a bhava, basically. Lord Ram tells them, in this life, I have taken Ekapatni Vrata. But in my next life, when I come as Krishna, I will marry all of you all. And he tells them, in the next incarnation, we'll meet. And the same the munis, the sages of Dandakaranya, they become gopis in Vrindavan. And they are all known as Muni-chari gopis. The Srimad Bhagavatam describes how these sages of Dandakaranya became gopis in Vrindavan and they enjoyed Ras Leela with Krishna in Vrindavan. Now, this is a very high level of devotion, and it's called Madhurya Bhav. This person, Devdutt Patnaik, in his book, he says, the story proves how gay marriages happened that time also. Now, what a way to interpret. What a context. I mean, this is the highest level of Madhurya Bhav discussion going on, and you bring it down so badly to a level that is, I mean, how do you understand this? This is called misinterpretation. And this is what I'm talking about as attachment to belief systems. Unfortunately, Drona that is standing in front of Arjun, that Drona exists today also. And these teachers exist today also. These teachers are there today to misinterpret and to completely bewilder our minds and our belief systems. And that is why we need authentic teachers. And that is why we need guides like Krishna who can help us deal with our belief systems, who can help us face the Dronas, Bhishma, Drona, Pramukata, and then come to the right conclusion of what is right. Only when you face these Bhishma, Drona, Pramukata, only then you can fight the battle of your life, right? So we're all right now like Arjun, in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita, the middle of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. On this side, the army is standing, on that side, the army is standing. And Krishna is bringing us in face to face with the Bhishma Dronas of our life. And the choice is ours. We need to decide, how do we want to prioritize our journeys? How do we really want to take ahead our journeys of Krishna consciousness? Do we want to succumb to the Bhishma Drona of our lives and just do whatever is being told to us, with blindly following it, ritualistically following it, not really understanding the deeper insights behind it, not really understanding how people are misinterpreting and misrepresenting what is the highest truth? Or do we want to really go by Krishna's traditional way of finding the right authentic understanding, right authentic mood of understanding our scriptures and living life based on it? That is what is happening right now in the Bhagavad Gita. So don't think the Bhagavad Gita is something that is irrelevant to our lives. Wow, nice story. Arjun is standing in the middle of the battlefield and Bhishma Drona is scared of. No, that's not what it is. Bhagavad Gita is going on in our life right now. The Bhishmas, Dronas are all around us right now. And the question is, do I have the guts to face the Bhishma Drona that are disturbing me in my understanding of the Gita, in my understanding of my spiritual journey, in my understanding of my relationship with Krishna? If yes, I think we have to at least start facing them, at least start dealing with them, at least start recognizing them for what they are. Because Bhishma and Drona, both individually were nice people. But because they were nice people, but they're standing on the wrong side, therefore Krishna will not spare them also. I'll stop here. Any questions, comments, discussions, please? Please feel free to ask. I know this is like a heavy loaded topic, and I'm sure a lot of you all have questions to ask. Akhila ji, please go ahead.